Joining us every Monday as we recap the entire football weekend and presented by Sawgrass Infinity. Sawgrass Infinity, Florida's #1 volume Infinity dealer. Over 400 new Infinity models are in stock at all times at Sawgrass Infinity. Go to sawgrassinfinity.com. Sawgrass Infinity, conveniently located off the Sawgrass and Commercial Boulevard. Sawgrass Infinity, where the commercial ends and the savings begin. Top girl Amber Wilson here with us as we just got back from Baton Rouge over the weekend. It was your first time there? Did you like Baton Rouge? You went in with very low expectations because I set you up for very low expectation.
Right, you did. You did not enjoy Baton Rouge last season. Now, you went for a terrible game because they were playing UCLA.
Yeah.
It was like 1 billion degrees because for some reason last year they scheduled you in Baton Rouge, Louisiana during September, I think it was. Yeah. And so you just had a pretty awful experience.
And I was on my own. I was by myself.
That's right. You were by yourself on that road trip. This time, we lucked out in terms of the temperature. It was quite pleasant when we were there. We did not luck out, though, in terms of the weather otherwise, because we got evacuated while we were live on air due to lightning. It was kind of a bleak show weather-wise in terms of the storms. But overall, I thought Death Valley, I can understand why everybody talks about Death Valley at night. I thought that was a hell of an environment.
It was so loud in the stadium.
It was really, really loud in there. It's a really great nighttime environment. It is a true, SEC football environment. I always love that. So that part lived up to it. In terms of Baton Rouge generally, it wasn't as much of a college town as I thought it was.
I didn't feel, and on top of it, I didn't feel like we were ever on camp. Like, were we ever actually on campus?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Been, right? But that part was really weird too about LSU. LSU, I guess, is just that enormous. I don't know. I couldn't, we were where all the sports stuff is at LSU. Yeah. I don't know if we actually ever saw real classrooms, although we did walk by a lot of buildings. It was really hard to tell. I didn't get a campus feel from it, which was weird.
Yeah.
And Baton Rouge as a town felt a lot. It felt like there was so much more beyond just LSU. And so I don't know. It was a different experience. It was an interesting experience. It's definitely different than some of these other SEC schools. I wouldn't say overall the LSU experience is my favorite, but I think the in-game environment is one of the best.
So Amber and I, we watched the first half of the game on the field in Death Valley, which was really awesome. We were right there. At first, there were people in front of us, including Shaq, who never has to tell anyone to sit down in front. He towers over everybody. And then we moved over to the other side of the LSU sideline where we were virtually by ourselves, which was awesome. We were able to see everything perfect. We were right next to where you had the block punt leading to the safety. The building's going crazy. We left at halftime just because we had a 4 a.m. wake up the next morning. I gotta get my beauty sleep. All right. This isn't natural. I need to work on this right here. So we left at halftime, which was the appropriate time to leave because the second half of the game got Brian Kelly fired. Now, we were tipped off, actually, Amber. When we got to our hotel, we were staying at a Hilton. When we got to our hotel, we were tipped off by the concierge who sees, I won't say us wearing ESPN radio shirts because I was wearing a Florida Panther shirt. You were wearing an ESPN. I got to represent. You were wearing an ESPN radio shirt and had an ESPN radio hat on, just like you do right now. And the concierge said to us, what do you think of the game tomorrow? And he said, I think the game is going to cost us $53 million. And you were like, oh, really? You think so? I'm not so sure he's going to get fired in season. Matter of fact, we asked Heather Dinich, who joins us every Saturday morning on College Football Campus Tour. She's an expert. She had she was very skeptical that Brian Kelly would be fired in season. The concierge, he was on point. He knew it was $53 million on the line.
Yeah, in terms of college football experts, it's Paul Feinbaum, it's maybe Greg McElroy, and then it's the concierge at the hotel that we were staying at there at LSU. He knew, a very nice man. Shout out to the concierge. He hooked me up with some deodorant, free deodorant. Appreciate you very much for that.
Now what's that about? Was that his way of flirting with you, or maybe were you a little bit stinky? What was going on there?
I was trying to purchase something, and then I was like, this is $8. It was like a tiny little thing of deodorant.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll give it to you on the house kind of thing. I hope I'm not revealing anything that's going to get this very nice gentleman in trouble. And if it was his way of hitting on me, I mean, that is the path these days. I mean, I don't need to hit, try to buy me a drink in a nightclub. We're past that. Give me things that I actually need here that I can work with. I feel like deodorant's on that list.
Did you forget deodorant at home?
No, I had some, but the problem is I have this all natural, healthy deodorant, antiperspirant stuff that I use. And it's very good, except for if you're, in a swamp type environment. Certain environments, I feel like I need the fake, aluminum, probably going to give you cancer stuff. And that stuff is what I purchased. I purchased the real stuff. So normally I use the all natural healthy stuff. And occasionally I feel like I need to take it up a notch. And because we were in Louisiana and you had described to me how hot and swampy it was last year when you were there, I was worried that maybe I would be in that situation because we're outside all day at these stops that we're at. So, and I didn't bring my backup. Normally I'll have two kinds with me. Normally I have my natural one and my, fake actually works one. And I didn't have both with me. So that's what happened.
He might have been flirting with you. Who knew that the way to your heart could be a travel stick of deodorant?
There you go. And a man who clearly knows the Brian Kelly situation better than I did, because I did not think that they were going to fire him after that game. But in fairness to me, I also did not think at all that LSU was going to get blown out in that game. And if you had told me what the final score was going to look like, then we maybe could have had a different conversation. So I understand why LSU did it. It coming off of that second half. If you look at the overall record of Brian Kelly as a head coach of LSU, it's remarkable. We can do the same thing with James Franklin at Penn State and talk about how he did make it through a couple rounds of the playoffs. It's not as if these guys are bad coaches, and it's not as if these guys have not had any success. Now, Napier at Florida, it's a very different story, but when we're talking about those particular coaches, I mean, heck, as a Florida fan, give me those records and some of that success, but it's not enough, and that's not where the standard is. And I think that we live in the day and age, too, where the noise is so loud around these coaches when things start going poorly. And the noise has always been loud when you're talking about the major programs or the SEC. But I think the difference is, Zaslow, that people didn't used to be spending their own money to run the program the way that boosters are today, right? The millions and millions, sometimes tens of millions of dollars that you're asking your alumni to give directly to these NIL funds. It's why the noise is so loud, because everybody has an opinion. And in this day and age, their opinion actually matters because you're very much reliant on those funds.
You think this LSU job opening right now hurts the Florida Gators, right?
Yeah, I don't love it. I would appreciate if we stopped firing coaches at major programs before Florida found one. If I'm FSU, maybe I pause a moment, right?
Well, schools like FSU and Wisconsin, I don't think they're going to fire their coaches now, because I think there's too many bigger jobs, Penn State, Florida, LSU, that are open for them to get the guy they want. They may want to fire Mike Norvell. They may want to fire Luke Fickell. I think they're going to be forced to keep them for at least another year.
Unless you feel like maybe you're playing in a slightly different category. If FSU likes the idea of James Franklin, and Florida's not going after him.
I think he'd be a great fit at FSU, James.
Right, and I don't disagree. And so I could see if there's a scenario like that, and if there's a scenario like that, they're having those conversations through back channels before they get rid of Mike Norvell, right? So that's where I could see it happening. But in terms of direct competition, why would you want to take that on? Why would Auburn? Why would any of these schools in this particular cycle? And it's another reason I was surprised LSU did it, frankly, because Penn State and Florida had already done it, because we had 7 open slots already in the Power 4 when LSU fired its coach. So now you're paying $53 million on his way out the door, and you're competing with all these other open jobs. And so it's an interesting cycle. We'll see how it works out for these schools. I remain surprised that these programs are so willing to pay these buyouts. And the fact that they are, I do think, weakens their position in terms of negotiating the buyout for the next guy. Because I thought that there was going to be an adjustment here now that we are spending so much money in NIL and we have direct revenue sharing from these schools, where at some point these athletic directors go, you know what, we're just not going to do these huge buyouts. We expect too much. The performance is too much. If you believe in yourself, then you don't have to worry so much about the buyout we're handing you. We'll still hand you tons of money while you're here, but we're not committing to some crazy buyout. And that has not been the case And we've seen even these contract renegotiations. We've seen, heck, what did they just do with Signetti, $93 million guaranteed? Yeah. I've been really surprised at that and the willingness of these athletic directors. But I think one of the reasons for it is because these coaches' agents are going, you clearly have no problem coming up with tens of millions of dollars when you want to get rid of somebody.
Why was Unsportsmanlike on ESPN radio this morning giving you a hard time?
Oh, come on. They aren't giving me a hard time, but it was the worst conversation I've ever seen.
Were you on with them?
No, I was not on.
Oh, okay.
I was gassed. I was appalled at what they were talking about.
Well, what'd they say? Let me hear.
They were talking about what's the best job out of LSU and Penn State and Florida. And they didn't, Michelle and Canty, didn't even put Florida on the list. They think Florida's dog bleep compared to the other open
I think Florida's the best job of the three.
They were not on that same wavelength. Now, their reasoning, because Evan Cohen said, you guys are acting like Florida's this terrible job, and their reasoning is what upset me, because they, first of all, made the argument that Vanderbilt and Missouri are as good as jobs as Florida and LSU. Vanderbilt is as good of a job as Florida or LSU. What on earth are we talking about?
The recruiting alone in Florida. The recruiting alone in Florida makes Florida the best of all those jobs you just mentioned.
Okay, people say that and fine, but you can recruit anywhere. It's more national now, the recruiting circuit, right? You don't just go to Florida because you grew up in the state of Florida anymore. But here's what it is. It's about money, honey, in this day and age. And I heard Canty say, well, it's all the same. All these schools get the same in terms of that $20 million for revenue sharing, except for, it's not the same, those booster collectives. And Vanderbilt Booster Collective, and I'm not saying Clarkley is leaving. I don't think Florida's going after Clarkley, or LSU maybe even is going after Clarkley. But a Vanderbilt Booster Collective at a small private school that's not a traditional powerhouse in football cannot compete with a Booster Collective at LSU and UF. There's so much more money that those two schools throw into their football programs. There's some weird thing with Florida. I'm even seeing it, I saw Dan Orlovsky tweeted out that LSU's the way better job over Florida. Way better. And I saw Jeff Darlington be like, this is a terrible take. Why is LSU a way better job? And people were commenting under Jeff Darlington's post, the Florida hasn't been able to keep up. Florida can't keep up in terms of facilities. And Josh Pate even commented under that one, what are you talking about? Florida's facilities are immaculate. I think there's this idea that Florida doesn't have a good program because young people don't maybe remember 2008, don't remember the urban years that well. I don't know. It feels longer ago than 2019 with LSU, obviously. And so I guess that's where that's coming from.
Were you yelling at the radio?
Well, yeah, because also they were going down that path. Michelle was like, young people these kids, they don't remember when Florida was good. They don't care about being. But I don't understand. None of that matters. I don't feel like any of that matters because they're not going to LSU because Joe Burrow went to LSU before NIL. Even then was still before transfer portal, NIL. It's changed so much since even LSU was great. So what does it matter whether it was 6 years ago, whether it was 25 years ago? None of that matters. And frankly, the other argument for LSU, and maybe this one holds a little bit of gravity, is that they're closer. People will say, well, they're closer because they've been better here under Brian Kelly than Florida was, when Billy gets fired and Brian Kelly get fired. Programs, I guess, arguably talent-wise are into, although Florida's packed with talent, but whatever. We want to pretend. Then, okay, but I don't even think that matters in a transfer portal era because all those guys are going to leave. They're all there for their coach. They're all going to hit the road regardless, right?
They could be so much better next year. They could be a completely new team.
They could be a completely new team for either school, or they could be a worse team, right? Yeah. I don't fully understand the train of thought there. Listen, I'm a homer. I obviously think Florida's a great job. If I'm objective for 2 seconds, I think those jobs are even. And then I think Penn State, it isn't necessarily better or worse. I think it's totally different. I think it's geographically different. It's very different coaching in the Big Ten. I think there's arguments to be made that maybe that's the easier path, although are we overstating that now with Indiana and Oregon? I don't know. Where do you want to live? Where do you want to live, Coach? Where do you want to live, Lane Kiffin? Where do you
I'd rather
feel?
live in Gainesville than Baton Rouge. I'd much rather be in Gainesville than Baton Rouge.
I would too, but I mean, that's just a personal preference. There's probably other people that would rather live in Baton Rouge. Both of them are great college football environments. You're talking about two of the best stadiums in the country. Both of them spend roughly $20 million a year on their team just from the booster collectives alone, not even the revenue sharing. Both of them have immaculate facilities. I mean, both of them are really good jobs.
So Amber and I are in Jacksonville this weekend for Florida, Georgia, world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Which
That's what we call it here. We call it that on ZASLOW. We call it the real name on ZASLOW 2.0. They may not let us call it that on other places. We call it the real thing. Jonathan.
Come at me. All right. No one tells me what to say or what not to say here on Zat. This is where we could say whatever we want right here, Amber. You got anything you want to say that maybe you can't say somewhere else? Go ahead.
I know, but keep it real or keep it don't. And we keep it real here on ZASLOW Show 2.0. They changed all that. They changed the branding. Listen. When you and I were coming out of college, there was some questionable behavior at Florida, Georgia. There was some tragic things that happened as well around that game that were, alcohol related. And because of that, they decided to try to separate themselves from the cocktail party thing. But still the cocktail party to me.
So I'm really looking forward to it because I've never been. You got to remember, I was only at University of Florida for 2 years. Okay. Now, granted, those were 2 opportunities to go to Florida, Georgia. All right. But I wasn't there for 4 years. I was there for 2 years and I did not go to Florida, Georgia. So this is my first time ever this weekend. I'm really looking forward to it.
When I was listening to Unsportsmanlike this morning, and it was very frustrating because they're saying all this false crud, and Michelle implies that like a degree from Vanderbilt is so much better than a degree from Florida. And I'm like,
Vanderbilt's a very good school.
It's a good school. It's a private school. Florida's one of the best public universities in the entire country. It's like they're both very good. Very good. They probably have very similar standards. I have no idea, but like they're both, it's not apples to apples. They're very different schools, but also we're not talking about Harvard. Like it's Vanderbilt. It's good. It's a good school. Florida's a very good school. And so I text Evan about, these jobs aren't the same because of the money. The booster collectives it's just not the same. And and then he said something, and he writes back something like, ZASLOW went to Florida. So it's not exactly And I wrote back, don't hold that against us. He had to get his AA at UCF first. And Evan said, I had no idea.
Well, he didn't know that I was a transfer?
That's what he claims.
All right, maybe he didn't know. So we're there this weekend. We're in Jacksonville for Florida, Georgia, which I'm really looking forward to. Over this weekend, right? And you guys, you can tweet at us. I'm at ZASLOW Show. She's at Amber W Sports. And you could chime in here if you think that this is strange. So over the weekend at one point, Amber and I were leaving the hotel, and we went to her hotel room. She had to grab something, okay? And so she goes in the hotel room. I go in there with her. I'm standing, by the door, and I could see we both of our rooms. We had 2 beds. There were 2, maybe king size beds. There were 2 beds. All right. It was sweet. It was a nice room. There were 2 beds. Okay. And I said to her, you could see the covers are, kind of a mess in one of the beds, and the other one is completely made up. And I said to her, because this was after our first night, I said, are you going to sleep in the second bed tonight? The one that has not been used yet, the one with the clean sheets. Mm-hmm. I was asking it as a legitimate question. Amber thinks it's a crazy question.
Crazy question. I was so taken aback. He's at the door. He's in the doorway. And I go to him to grab a jacket, and he just says into the room, are you sleeping in the other bed tonight? What are you talking about? He said, well, because that one has clean sheets. I said, what kind of serial killer question is that? That's like, who changes beds when you're in a hotel for 2 days? I need the fresh fitted pressed sheets on the other bed. And then these poor maids that you're causing more problem because there's 0 chance these maids clean the bed. That isn't, like that bed that was perfectly made. Still,
oh, really? You think they leave it?
The next person. You think that they strip that bed? I don't know.
I lean toward them stripping it, but you could be right. But just the fact that it never, I slept in the same bed too, but at least it crossed my mind if I want to switch beds.
Yeah, it never occurred to me to switch beds the next night. Never occurred to me. Right. And I did not do it, by the way. Still
Amber, before I let you get out of here, Amber, have you seen the Miami Heat? Highest scoring, fastest paced team, 2-1. Miami Heat are fun. They took that ass last night against the Knicks.
We are 3 games into a regular season. I heard you guys are already on Levitard show. You guys are already, is Tyler Hero going to screw everything up? Because they're just so good without him. I'm like, what is happening?
No, he's not. He's not going to screw anything up. But the point is, like, I think they're going to play fast. And if they play like we've seen these 3 games, that could be a fun little team, Amber.
Listen, I think we're desperate for a fun little team. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but I just think that we have been starved for offense on that team. And like, they're always good defensively, and that team is not always fun to watch offensively, especially the last few years. And so you get some offense and you get some high tempo, and all of a sudden you're cooking and you get really excited. And I think you get really excited from a viewership perspective as well. I understand it. It's 3 games into the regular season, though. That's all I'm saying. Like, I'm seeing fans already tweet out that, you're NBA champions, the Miami Heat, this sort of thing. It's like, okay, maybe we need to settle down a little bit.
Should I go after the Miami Heat PA job?
I think you should.
That's going to be a hard
job.
That's going to be a hard job for whoever gets it after Mike Biamonte retires, because you have to come up with your own stuff. You can't do a Mike Biamonte impersonation. Right. You need to be completely different. You need to come up with your own stuff.
And instead of dos minutos. Uno minuto.
I would love that job. I am interested in putting my name out there.
You want every job. Yeah, ESPN radio. You want every job.
I tried to take a job from Evan Cohen yesterday. I'll tell you about it another time. But I'm gonna put my name out there. I don't think the Heat are going to consider me for it. I think they're gonna think that I'm too controversial for it.
I don't. You've said that to me off air as well, that you think you're too controversial. I don't know. I don't think you're that controversial.
I don't think they're gonna want someone who gives opinions throughout the day to then be there as their, in-arena PA voice.
That may be true. Tell them you're on the take. Tell them you'll only say nice things.
Like on ZASLOW Show 2.0?
Yeah, or on Levitard. You'll only say nice things about the Miami Heat.
I'm never on the take. How dare you insinuate?
You were on the radio broadcast for many years for the Miami Heat, and we had radio shows about the Miami Heat.
That's true.
Opinions.
That's
true. There was a little, I guess, a little logistics there, because you weren't technically an employee of the Heat, even though you were on the radio broadcast. You were technically an employee of the station, but
yeah.
And this
that's a good point.
Heat, but you did do that. I mean, as long as they don't think you're going to be trashing the Heat, and I don't think anybody thinks you're going to be trashing the Heat.
No, that's a good point.
You do it in an about face like you did on Tua. By the way, are you willing to admit that Tua is not scrambled eggs after this last game, or no?
No.
Okay.
Amber, they played 8 games this year. Good for him. He had a good game. I mean, great.
But doesn't that show that he can still play football? This idea is so stupid that it's Tua can't play because he got hit in the head. No. They're just not good.
My opinion on it isn't that Tua's going to be terrible every single game. The opinion is that he's not good enough to be good enough for this team to win.
Right, but I don't understand why you're having a hard time accepting that he's just not very good.
I totally accept it.
Wrong for him to just not be very good. That's what I don't get.
Well, because I was wrong, and now I'm right. I'm not having a hard time accepting it. I'm totally accepting it now.
But you still have repeatedly said over and over again, he's not the same player he used to be.
He's not, because the last couple of years, the last couple of years, we never had the stretch of games that we've had this season. A really good quarterback, once in a while, you're going to mix in a lousy game. Most of his games this year have been lousy.
Right, but he's been on a lousy team. He's been on the lousiest team that he's been on during his tenure here. Since the beginning, at least, under Mike McDaniel, anyways.
Yeah. No, he was good yesterday. He was good. Yeah.
Was good. I mean, listen, it was against the Falcons. I'm not saying the Dolphins are good. They're not good. But Tua was good. All I'm saying is that we need to acknowledge hey, maybe Tua can still actually play football. Again, he's just not, he's not that great. I'm not saying he's a very good quarterback, but I don't think it's a medical thing that's making him not so good.
Every appearance that Amber has on the show is presented by Sawgrass Infinity. Amber, are you doing any shows this week before Friday night? Amber and Ian, we got baseball tonight. We got baseball tomorrow. We got baseball Wednesday. Are you doing any? I'm filling in for you on Thursday. Are you doing any shows this week before Friday?
No. I'm not, and I don't even know if we're going to do a show on Friday.
We might not.
Between me and you, really rooting for a game 6 so that we don't have a show Friday so I can see my son trick or treat for Halloween. So that's between us. And then we'll be on air Saturday for college football tailgate. By the way, the fact you've never been to Florida, Georgia is I mean, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for you. It's embarrassing for your family. It's embarrassing, honestly, for your entire lineage. So I'm embarrassed for your ancestors. But it's an incredible experience. I'm a little bummed that your first Florida, Georgia experience is going to be when Florida doesn't even have a coach and Florida sucks. But it's still, obviously, the fan bases will still be there. It's still a really good game. You get the split, because it's the neutral site game. You get the split. They do a good job there, too, of like really having the Florida fans on one side and the Georgia fans on another. So it looks cool. But the bigger thing is that it is such an insane party. And the years that it falls with Halloween on that Friday night is the craziest of the Florida Georgia games. The landing in if that's even what it's still called, because it's been a minute since your girl has been there to party. But the landing in Jacksonville on Friday night gets insane with people partying their faces off. It's some of the most fun I've ever had at this Florida Georgia experience that we're walking into. So even if we don't, so maybe let's root for not having a show Friday. Maybe we can have a good time instead.
And then we go get loose somewhere. Okay. All right. Amber, excellent job as always. Look forward to seeing you again this weekend, of course.
See ya.